Hello everybody and welcome back to our next tutorial in our how to make an avatar series. So last tutorial we had covered doing our idle animations. We did our idle blink, our idle wings, and our idle tail, and talked about adding those onto your avatar to be toggleable. So in this video we're moving on to another quality of life thing that's, again, not really like necessary per se for your avatar, but something that I find a lot of people enjoy, and especially if you're wanting to sell avatars commercially. I just think it's like a really fun thing to be able to add to your avatar, and that is contacts. So we are going to be covering two different types of contacts today. One of them is going to be a head pat, and the other one, which is like a normal, like it's going to change her facial expression. And then we're also going to be adding a butt slap contact that's going to activate a change on her material to leave a handprint mark. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do with contacts. You can have like particle systems, you can have sounds, you can have, you know, things like the decals show up. You can do like tattoos or maybe certain emissions. There's all kinds of fun stuff that you can do when it comes to contacts. Before we get too far started, I do want to point out a few different channels that I highly recommend in their tutorials for some of the more like advanced contacts that I won't really be able to show you guys on my avatar, with like using like particles to maybe have like hearts or something come out of the head, as well as grabbable contacts, because I don't have any particles that I'm using for this avatar, and she doesn't have any grabbable items either. But these are the videos that I always go to whenever it comes time for me to add contacts with particles or grabbable contacts. So I just want to be able to point you guys to those channels and tutorials real quick before we get started on doing the contacts on my own avatar. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alrighty, so these are the tutorials that I tend to go to the most, and from where I learned contacts. The VRC Beginner Academy is a YouTube channel ran by a few different creators that they have some really good tutorials up there, and that's where I originally learned the butt slap contact, as well as this one by Sophie and Velvet, whose tutorials I've referred to back quite a few different times. And if I'm not mistaken, Velvet's does include setting up particle effects. I don't remember for sure, so don't quote me on that, but these are the few tutorials that I have watched to set up my contacts. I just kind of wanted to give them credit. Airbee is probably the tutorial that I use the absolute most whenever it comes to grabbable contacts. Sip's Avatar Box channel also has one for grabbable contacts, but I mostly use Airbees whenever it comes to setting it up. I have really good success rate from watching their tutorial. So if you wanted to know how to do something a little bit more advanced like a grabbable object, I highly recommend checking out some of these channels and these tutorials. I'm sorry I'm not able to show it to you guys. I just didn't have anything to add to this avatar to be a grabbable object. But yeah, that's what I literally follow their tutorial every single time I set up a grabbable contact, like to a T, and it works beautifully. So I highly recommend them. So moving on to actually setting up the head pat and the butt slap contact on my avatar, and how I personally do it. I'm going to shoot you guys completely straight. I tried recording this tutorial a few minutes ago, and I was thinking of the steps for grabbable contacts, and I was setting it up that way, and then was questioning why nothing was working. So I stopped that recording and I'm doing it again. So I already have everything set up, because I had to like refresh myself on how everything works. So I'm going to kind of take you guys through how to set it up. Just know that I already have it on here, but of course I'll show you guys all the buttons and everything. Yeah, because I didn't want to like mess myself up again. I'm also recording this very late at night, so I apologize if I'm rambling and for silly little mistakes like that. So for setting up contacts, I'm going to kind of do them both at the same time. So with the butt slap, like I said, it's going to activate like a decal to show up on her booty. And I actually, oops, let me turn this off too. I actually am using all of the decal spots are being used for the different skin tones. So if you don't have you know, like room on the decals, you can always set stuff up with like your emissions or maybe your matte swaps. Okay, sorry about the cut there. I was having a weird like audio issue there for a second. But anyways, as I was saying, if you don't have any room on your decals, which is how I normally set them up, you can always set it up under like the emission section. I set mine up under the matte cap section. So I just went on to my matte caps and I added the decal that I wanted. And I picked out a matte cap and I changed it to be more of like a little red tone. And it's still a little bit darker than I would like it to be, so I might go back and edit it a little bit better. But yeah, just kind of set it up how you want, and once you have like the sliders that you're wanting to use, just make sure that you do the right click and then rename and alpha lock them so that they can function whenever your material is locked. You could do that for, you know, like tattoos, emissions, like I said, like something like this, like a handprint. This handprint is one that I made myself in Substance Painter. If you go on Jinxie and search up like butt slap decal or something like that, I think there's quite a few creators that have some variants for sale. There's a few tools I think that other creators have made that have put up for sale to auto add it to your avatar so you don't have to set it all up manually. But you can do this, like I said, like with tattoos or anything that you want. What you're going to be looking for is you need something that's going to have an all black background and then whatever you're wanting to show up in white. So just keep that in mind. Like you could do this for you know, like I said, all kinds of different things, but that's the map that you're going to want to grab. Most of the time it's called an alpha map. And that's what you're going to want to put in your mask spot. If you're doing it for like a matte cap or an emission, or in the decal spot, you'll just put it in the decal and then have it as an alpha. So once you get it set up on your material, if that's what you're needing to do for the head pat, obviously we don't need to do anything on our material. You're going to want to animate it. So if I come over to our animations one, I'm sorry, she looks kind of funky. And if you come over here, so you're going to want to make your animations. So I have the butt slap. I just need the, no, I'm so sorry. I'm actually missing one. So let me I was thinking, see, I'm doing it again. I'm thinking of the wrong kind of contacts. So you're going to want one for on and off. Just like whenever we set up our toggles manually. So it's the same kind of concept. So I have my head pat on, head pat off, and butt slap on and butt slap off. And again, make sure that none of them are set to loop time because we don't want it to just sit there and go in circles. So once you have all of those, go ahead and add them onto your avatar. And we're going to come in here and go to butt slap. So if I go to preview, I zoom in on here. I wanted it to kind of like fade in and then fade out once it's touched. So I spaced it out to where it kind of has that like fade effect. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. But if you're doing something that's going to be involving changing something on your material, you know, just like before with like the hue shifts and stuff, you'll just come onto your material and record that, as you can see here. So you'll record that, and then for the off animation, which I forgot to add, you're just going to want to undo that. So I actually won't want any of that. I'm just going to, boop, boop. I just want it to stay completely off. Oh, that's the butt slap. Oh no. Hold on. Butt slap off. I probably shouldn't be making tutorials in the random middle of the night, but I couldn't sleep, so here we are. So there we go. For the off, it's just set to 0. And then head pat, I just went and grabbed a cute little facial expression for her. So she goes doop. So whenever the contact is touched, right, because we want her to have her resting face, and then once the contact is activated, it goes from resting to a cute little smile. And then for the off, we want it to be the opposite. We want it to go from the contact being touched to off. So it goes from the contact to back to her resting face. So once you have your animations recorded, whether it's just, like I said, like a simple contact like this, or for the one that's going to involve your material, once you have those recorded, you're going to want to go back to your main avatar. And I prefer adding the contacts as an empty, you can like extend down your armature and you can extend down your armature and assign it directly to the hip bone or the butt bone or the head bone. But what I normally prefer to do, just because I find it just a little bit easier to like edit, especially down the road if I need to, is you can right click on it and create an empty and do exactly what I did here. I just renamed it as butt slap contact. And the reason being is now, since it's its own empty object, I can move it around. Well, hold please. There we go. I can move it around accordingly, get it positioned exactly where I want to, and then you can assign it to the bone that you need it to be, so that now, you know, it's still going to follow that bone. It's still going to follow the hip bones, but I can adjust it if I need to, adjust its position. So once you have your empty created, you're going to do add component, and you're going to type in contact, and you're going to want to do contact receiver. You don't really ever need to set up a sender. I will show you guys why you need to set that up, more so to test it. But very long story short, way back in the olden days, we used to have to set up a sender on like the hands and the fingers, anything that we wanted to be able to activate the contacts. But since the SDK and vrchat has come a bit of a ways in the past few years, they've got it now to where it can auto register off of your avatar's armature. So we don't really have to worry about setting up, you know, anything on the hands. It's going to automatically register that. So once you set up your contact receiver, you can adjust the radius, you can adjust the size that you need it to be. Allow self and others, obviously self-explanatory. If you want yourself to be able to mess with the contact, and if you want others, you're not really going to want to ever toggle on local only. That's only needing to be toggled on if you only want yourself to be able to see the contact being activated. So if you don't want anyone else to see it, you'll want to check mark that. If you are going in and you're testing it in game and only you can see it and your friends can't, and that's not what you want, you probably accidentally check marked this. So just, kind of keep that in mind. Most contacts that I'm aware of, we want everyone to be able to see them. So normally that is left off, but if you want it to be just for you, check mark that. Collision tags, you can set this up to whatever you want to. So like I said, like if you want it to be the hand, we can set that up. If you want it to be the head or the torso, anything like that, the foot, whatever part of the armature that you want from anybody else's armature to touch this contact bubble to be able to activate it is what you're going to want to push here. I normally just kind of for like safety precautions, I'll set it to the finger index. You can do hand perfectly fine. I just feel like for nose boops or something, most people would reach out with their index finger. So just for habit building, I normally just set it to finger index for everything, because now even if somebody takes their whole hand to go touch the head or the butt or whatever, that finger index is going to be a part of it, so it's still going to activate it. So that's why I have it. You can set it to hand and it's perfectly fine. If you only want it to be activated by someone's left hand or someone's right hand, you can do that. You don't have to do finger index. Like I said, I just do it just more to try to get myself in the habit for some of the other contacts. So for the butt slap and the head pat, we want it to be proximity. What that means is basically if my mouse is like somebody else's hand, we want it to activate once that hand enters the proximity, the area of this contact. And as long as that hand is within this area, that contact is going to play. So, if they go to hit the butt, it'll be play, and it's going to play that full animation. But now that the hand is away from it, it's going to stop, which is kind of what we want. And then with the head pat, it'll be the same thing, but most people will sit there and keep their head or their hand on your head. So it'll keep that facial expression going so long as they're petting the head. And then once they pull their hand away, it'll stop. So we have it set to proximity. There is constant and on enter. Those are more for I want to say grabbable contacts, I think uses the on enter, or the constant. But like I said, I would definitely recommend checking out those tutorials. I've set up grabbable contacts quite a few times. I'm just not the most familiar with them, so I didn't want to set it up on her. But for stuff like this, for head pats, eye poke, nose pokes, anything like that, you're going to want it to be proximity. And then you'll put in your parameter, whatever you want it to be, and make sure that it's something that you'll remember easily. So I have that all set up here for the butt slap, and then we did the same thing for the head pat contact. I have its radius and the finger index and proximity head pat. When setting the radius, a nice rule of thumb that I think is like really helpful is I find it's more helpful to let the contact area be a little bit bigger than the area you want it to be affected. That way, you know, you don't really have to worry about somebody's hand having to come like down here, like into the head or into the hat to be able to activate it. It's just kind of like as a safety measure. And then same thing with the butt slap contact. We have it sticking out just a little bit outside of the butt, so that way I don't have to worry about somebody touching it perfectly for it to activate. So it's a little bit, helps it not be quite so like finicky. It's a nice little rule of thumb. So once you have your contacts situated where you want them to be, you're going to want to go into your parameters and add them as bool. And, oops, I actually do not want them to default on. And then we're going to go into our FX layer and add the parameters there. I have those as defaulted off. And then we'll add our layers. And on the layers, you're going to want to make sure that your off animation is what is set first. So I actually did not set up the butt slap animations, so let's go ahead and do that real quick. So we want our off, because we don't want our avatar to load in with these animations playing, right? So we have our off as default, and then our on. Make transitions just like we did with our normal toggles before. And I want butt slap to be true. And then going to off, I want butt slap to be false. I did the same exact thing on the head pat. Off to on is true, on to off is false. And that's it. Very, very, very simple. One of the great ways that you can test it is I made this empty game object, and I made it itty bitty. This is when I actually did make it a sender. Something I think very, very important to remember whenever you go to test your toggles or your contacts in Unity. This part that I'm about to show you to test it needs to be set up before you go into play mode. If you're already in play mode, it won't work. So hold on just a second. All right, sorry about that cut there. So yeah, you're going to want to make sure that all of this is set up before you go into play mode or it's not going to work. What I like to do to test it is I just like to make a little empty game object, actually set it to a contact sender, and I'll get it positioned wherever I want it to be to get ready to test it. And then, you know how whenever we came in here for like our butt slap, we set the collision tags to finger index. You're going to want to make sure that your sender has that exact same collision tag. So if this was set to like hand, even though, yes, the finger is a part of the hand, on Unity side, it's not able to register that because this is not an actual like armature hand that we're doing, if that makes sense. This is truly an empty object, so I need it to match exactly. So I had it set to finger index. In game, since that finger index is attached to a hand bone on all avatars armatures, that's how it'll work. But since this is Unity, it has to be specific, so it does need to make sure that it matches. So make sure that you have it matching the collision tag that you set for your contacts. I personally find it easiest to pull, normally my game window is over here. And whenever we go into play mode, we are in the scene where we can swoosh around. For contacts, you actually need to be able to look in your game window. If you go in just your scene, you're not going to be able to see it playing because it's just your scene, right? It's just the way Unity works for stuff like this. It's trying to show you what it would look like in game quite literally. So I normally pull aside my game window. Game window goes off of camera. So you'll just toggle on your scene's main camera if it's not on there. I believe it's down here. Yeah, camera. You can just add it back if you deleted it or something. And then you'll just swoosh it around until, you can get it lined up with your avatar wherever you see fit. So now that we have our contact sender, our contacts are already set up. They're on our avatar. And we have our game window open. We're going to run Gesture Manager. Right, so we have our avatar. There's her idle animations playing. And then if I grab my game object here in my scene, which see, I can still move my scene around, but can't move the game window. And yes, I will fix that clipping. But if I can take this and I can boop and see, now oh, it is working in the scene. Okay, cool. It's given me trouble with not wanting to work in the scene before, so I guess you don't have to have a game window, but do make sure that you're running through this through Gesture Manager. If you're running in just play mode, it won't work. Yeah, so now anytime someone's hand touches her head, it makes a cute little face. And now you can give her cute little head pats, right? And then if we come down here, which her pants are covering it, so let me come over here and turn off her harness as well. If I grab this, I come back here and down. It's a little small, but that's okay. And I go, see? So anyway, ADHD got the best of me for a second. So that is how you can test your contacts in game. And I believe some of those other tutorials that I had recommended and showed you guys from how I learned do cover particles as well as sound effects, which again is something that... Oh, my cat bumped me. Sorry about that, but I believe it's something that those tutorials covered. It's just not... I don't really like having sound effects on my avatar, so I didn't want to include those. But yeah, I would definitely recommend checking out those tutorials if you want stuff like that. But if you just want basic, obviously you can just leave it off and set it up how I did. So very, very short, very quick tutorial. But now you guys know how to set up contacts. So let's go ahead and wrap up this tutorial and head over to our next to last tutorial for the series. Alrighty, so wrapping up this video is very quick. Nice and easy way to set up contacts. I'm sorry that it might not have been more in-depth or more advanced contacts. I'm not obviously the most comfortable setting up contacts since I had to redo this already because I was setting it up wrong before. But I just wanted to be able to show you guys as a part of this tutorial series how to set up contacts, since it's something a lot of people like on their avatars and it's very, very popular and it's so easy to set up. If you start getting into things like grabbable contacts or velocity contacts or things like that, like contacts with the floor, it can get a little bit more advanced. I definitely recommend checking out the tutorials and the channels that I have linked below. They helped me learn how to make contacts, and especially for grabbable like weapons and stuff. Ton of fun to have on your avatar and something really, really cool you can set up. And the concept of setting it up isn't too much different from what I did on this avatar. It's just like a few extra steps for getting the weapon from your hip to your hand. But I definitely recommend checking out those tutorials and showing those creators some love. Next video is going to be our next to last of the whole series. It's crazy. We're finally at this point. It's been a very long journey, and really, really excited to start wrapping things up in the next video with you guys. So the next one is going to be adding Gogo Loco to our avatar, as well as SPS, which I will show you guys how to add, but we're not going to cover what it is because it is an 18+ only thing on your avatar, and I don't want to have to age restrict this series, so we're not going to be covering what it is or how to test it, but I will show you guys how to add it. If you need to know how to test it, then I would recommend joining the creator servers if you're not too sure how, but really you could just go into play mode and kind of test from there. So I'm sorry that next video won't really be covering that. I just don't want to, like I said, I don't want to have to age restrict this whole series or that whole video. But yeah, we're going to be setting up Gogo Loco, SPS, and then we're going to be making icons, custom icons for our toggle menus. So yeah, we're very close to ending everything. After the next video is going to be one more video of how to export out of Unity and upload it to vrchat. So we're getting close to the end. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below and let me know. You're also welcome to join my Discord server and ask there. I know this isn't really relevant to future viewers, but I did leave kind of a disclaimer at the end of the last video. I would like to leave in this one as well, that at the time of recording this, I'm hoping to release this series here in about 2 days after I record this one. And I actually have some family vacations coming up over these next 2 weeks, and as well as these next few months are going to be quite a lot of travel for me and my family. So normally I would say my Discord server is the quickest way to reach out to me if you don't want to go through the hassle of joining my Discord server. You're always welcome to leave a YouTube comment, but I will be checking both probably the same frequency since I'm going to be on the road a lot. So if you don't hear from me in one, you're welcome to try the other, but I will do my best to help out with any questions you guys might have as quickly as I can. Just do bear with me for any questions you guys have, since these next few months are about to get really hectic. That being said, thank you so much for watching the video, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Bye-bye.